I'm Boone. This is Boone's Slot Car Garage. And tonight we're going to go ahead and work on an addition area that I've added onto the layout. So if we go on down, I got some people that are going to help me out tonight. So I got minions. Pretty cool. Minions. All right, but we'll stay away from that. So what I've done is I went ahead and added a little bit to the side over here. And I went ahead and just scabbed onto the table, extended it out, and then got my polystyrene foam board laid down. So what we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna go ahead and dress up our area. So what I mean by that is we're gonna go ahead and do some red brick as far as pavers all the way down. And we're gonna go ahead and do a stone wall, and then finish that up with some grass, a little bit of dirt, and we'll call it good for tonight. But we're gonna keep on visiting this area until we're done with it, right? So when it gets all done, we can move on to something else. So let's do this. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and lay out our red pavers. So what I've done is I've created a kind of a sample board playing around with different effects of pavers. And I'm gonna go with more of the red style of the pavers that we're gonna do. Now, our pavers are a 1/2 centimeter wide and they're 1 centimeter long. So now knowing that, set that off to the side, we need to figure out where we're gonna put them. So this area in here is going to have a combination of pavers and grass. So we made our AGIP sign on an earlier episode, and we're going to utilize this sign in this area. So what I plan on is setting this in the corner over here. So with that, I want to mark the area that I want my pavers. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have grass next to the sign. So with just a simple pencil, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of sketch out the area that I wanna have my pavers at. So now that we kind of have this established, I'll get this sign out of the way and proceed to keep on sketching out exactly where I want the pavers. So we come back, I'll have this all drawn out as far as where our pavers are gonna go. So I went ahead and have where I want to have my pavers all etched out all the way down the polystyrene. Now what I need to do is set down a grid as far as the spacing of my bricks. Now, this part is tedious, and you don't really want to freehand this type of stuff because you want to keep it all nice and crisp. So the little extra step as far as laying everything out and getting all your points correct is crucial in the final your final product when you're all done. So what I've done is I went ahead and I put a dot at 1 centimeter away from the border of where my pavers are going to be. And why I'm doing that is that I'm going to have the outer pavers in a different direction, 90-degree direction of what my main layout of pavers is going to be in the center of the area. So I went ahead and measured 1 centimeter out, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and connect all these dots around the outside, and that's going to be my perimeter. So all you do is just measure out 1 centimeter and just put a dot. And when you come to areas where you have like a curve or whatnot, just go ahead and keep on putting your dots, put a closer grid together so it's easier for you to connect the dots, and just do that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and lay this completely out, but once you have all your dots, then just take your ruler, line up your dots, and just connect them all up. Now realize also I'm using a pencil, okay? Why I'm not using a pen is because if I use a pen and it doesn't get burnt away with the soldering iron, the ink will actually seep up through your paint that you use, because we're using acrylic. So a pencil is, you know, it's not gonna bite you later on. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get this all laid out. When we come back, we'll start laying out the inner grid. Okay, so now I have my perimeter all measured out all the way around. So now remember, our bricks are 1 centimeter long and 1/2 centimeter wide. So what I have right here is 1 centimeter. And now what we need to do is just go ahead and set that grid. So what we're gonna do is put a dot at every 1/2 centimeter all the way down. So once you have that all set, then we can go ahead and move into the center. So I went ahead and I have my grid set up for all the perimeter. Now we got to go ahead and get the grid set up for the inside. Now remember, again, our bricks are a half inch. They're a 1/2 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So depending on how you want to have your bricks laid out, do you want to have them laid out in this fashion, or a diagonal, or you know, any old way you want to have them laid out? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and lay them out in just a straight fashion through here. There's obviously tons of different layouts you can do for pavers. They have real complicated ones. You could do a design in the inside. It just means that you're gonna have to put that much more effort into your layout. So for the video that we're making and everything else, I'm gonna go ahead and just keep it a fairly, simple layout that we're gonna do. So what I'm gonna do is measure out down through it and get my width set first. So again, at every 1/2 centimeter, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a dot, okay? So once you get these dots laid all the way out, go all the way down here, we wanna go ahead and come down and lay out another set. So I have a dot there, one there, and so on. Now that we have our grid set, just go ahead and connect your dots. So grab your ruler and just line it up and connect your dots. Now you can see how we have different shapes. So what you want to do as you lay out your dots on through is make sure that when you are laying out your other dots, your other reference points, that you're going to have areas where it's going to overlap. We don't want to go down too far, say down here, and then we're off. So just go ahead and lay in your dots for your grid and get your lines all set. Now, so we have a 1/2 centimeter here. Now we need to lay out a full centimeter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and line this guy up on top, and at a full centimeter, I'm going to go ahead and put another dot. And normally what I'll do is just do one set of these across, because once I have that set, as I work down, I can go ahead and just pretty much say, scribe this one down, split it in half, put my other brick, and so on. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and set these. When we come back, we'll start using the soldering iron to make our brick. Okay, so I went ahead and I have our grid all set out, have our lines in place and our spacing. So next thing that we need to do is get yourself soldering iron. Now, This is an old Weller, and I can go ahead and control my heat with a dial, so I won't go ahead and I turn it down. Now, you could use like the regular pencil style soldering irons, anything that doesn't have too much heat. So what I have here is a little piece of polystyrene, and I just want to go ahead and test this. And you can see how I can go ahead and make some pretty good lines with it. If this was turned up, it would go down and would make huge, huge holes right away because it's just way too hot. So once I've got this all dialed in, which I do, I can go ahead and pull a pretty good line with it. Now we need to go ahead and start working on our grid. So I'll set that off to the side. Now, what we're gonna do is just go ahead and put this down and support your hands so that your hand isn't going up and down. Want to make nice smooth strokes with it. So just take it in pieces and make your strokes. The nice thing about a soldering iron is that you notice your edges have a little bit of a fray to them. So it just kind of, helps add that little bit of realism to it. Once you have your perimeter done, then come into where your dots are at and bring this guy right down to your other line in the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this all squared back, and when we come back, we'll go ahead and start doing the inner grid. Okay, so I went ahead and I have the outer perimeter done. Now we need to come in and do the center. So what I'm going to do is on my marks right here at every 1 centimeter, I'm just going to go ahead and connect these two. Now I'm only going to do this on the top row at this point. And the reason why I'm doing that is I want to get this established to start out with before I start my rows. So I'll go ahead and finish up these dots. We come back, we'll start laying it out. Okay, so now I have that first area with the dots marked. So now it's safe enough to come in. Now you can use a ruler like this because we are going to start pulling some longer lines. And just go ahead and put your soldering iron down there and just bring it across. Just like that. Okay, move it down a little bit to your next line. Make sure we're all lined up there. We are. Bring this guy on down and pull it across. Just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up these lines. We'll come back and start getting these bricks set. Okay, so now we have all our horizontal lines set for a grid. Now we just need to come in and start making our vertical. So with that first line done, now we got to do is just split the difference. So just take those in half and go straight down. Okay. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Because we are doing pavers, so they can be a little bit worn or whatever. So all you got to do is just come in and split the difference between the bricks. Now, instead of going all the way down, I'll just stop right at this point. And so we did that. Now we just need to come right in the middle of that guy. Now we have our brick pavers all complete. So we have the edging and then the brick, and it goes all the way down to this far side. So next thing on the agenda is we're going to go ahead and build like a rock wall. So I have a sample. I was playing around with different effects, and what we're going to do is have a rock wall going all the way down. So we come back, we'll start trimming up our polystyrene to make some rock wall. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start on our rock wall. Now this is the high density polystyrene, and this is just a little extra piece that I have. So what I've done is went ahead and scribed a line at 3.5 centimeters. So 3.5 centimeters, went ahead and marked it and marked a line. Now at this point, if you had one of the hot wire foam cutters, you could use that, or you can go ahead and use yourself a razor knife. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and go right down where I had scribed the line and just cut that down. Might take a couple passes to get all the way through. Make sure you cut straight. There we go. So we'll go ahead and take this guy, take it off to the side, and here's the material we're going to use. Now, I'm not going to run it at the 1 inch thick. I'm going to go ahead and slice this down so it's going to be a 1/2 inch on both sides. So all I'm going to do there is, again, take my razor knife, pick the middle, and just start making multiple cuts. And just take your time with it, and it should work okay. Now, being that it is a rock wall, and it's not going to be, even a real one isn't exactly straight on and perfect. If your line sways to one side or the other, it's okay. I mean, it's just goes with the character of your wall. So let's see here. This feels like it might be the last pass. One more. There we go. Have our 2 sheets. So when we come back, we'll go ahead and start carving her up. So now we're back to our soldering iron again. And we got our polystyrene. Now, this is a lot like how we did the cobblestone over in the other section that was on a previous video. So we're pretty much going to do the same type of technique. So what we want to do is just go ahead and kind of free form a couple stones, larger stones, okay, and you know, kind of make them jagged around. You don't want to go just a circle. At this point, what we want to do is just go ahead and fill the gaps. Okay, so just start going around and start filling up gaps. So let me just get a little bit of this complete and give you an idea. Now, as we start going over on the top, what we're going to do, say you have a stone that's, let's see here, right here on the edge, okay? So we have a stone that's right here. Go ahead and bring it up. And just bring it on through. And what we're going to do is we're going to do both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and continue down this one side here. When we come back, we'll flip it over, start dressing the top, and come down on the other side. Okay, so we have this side pretty much all figured out. Now, being that we sliced this down the middle, this was the outer side, the smooth side. Now the inside, that's all rough. This area in here will melt a lot faster than the outside. So you gotta be a little bit careful when you go ahead and use the soldering iron on the side that has been cut. So keeping that in mind, this is the bottom, this will be the top. Now, what you have is your stones coming up, just kind of follow it around, and then when it comes over on the other side, just bring that down. So then it kind of gives a full stone effect. Yeah, we'll just see here. Let's fill in a couple areas right down in here. Now, on the side here, this actually is going to go into this area right in here. So this side is going to be an exposed side. So I might actually just leave that there and work with it. So what we have on this is we have these areas that come through, and if you just follow, just trace it down a little bit. Yeah, let's get that out of the way. There we go. You follow this over and just create stones all the way through. Okay? So pretty easy. So we'll just go through here. Let me do a couple more. And then we'll stop and take a look to see what we got going. All right, so we can see how it goes over on the top, wraps it on the other side, and then our exposed side. So when this sits right down in here, it'll have that exposed rock face. Now, let me get my soldering iron out of the way. When we come down on here, we're gonna have a 90, okay? So we'll have another piece that's gonna come at this point. So what I'm gonna do is we'll get this one down, and then we'll cut it off and glue this together. And on the inside area where it comes up in here, what you're gonna wanna keep in mind is that you're gonna have to carry your stone from one side kind of over into the other. That way it doesn't, just stop right in that corner. So let me go ahead and I'll finish this down. We'll slice this off, and then we'll get this set in. So we got both sides done. Got the upper, and I have an area here that I have not touched. So what we're gonna do is if I line this up, that's gonna be right down here in the corner. So I'll take it over and slice it like so. Well, put that guy there. Now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and take some hot glue. So just gonna go ahead and put a bead of it here on the bottom. Like this. Set this guy down here on the ground. And then we'll go ahead and line this up. Get it right here on the edge. Okay. Nice thing about hot glue is it dries fast. So we'll get that one there. And now I will take this side and we'll glue that right into that portion here. Okay? So get some more hot glue. Put a bead here on the bottom. Looks like I might need another stick. Load it in. Right there. And what was that? That's right. We'll just put some here on the edge. Put that guy back down. Line this up. And there we go. So there's our edge, right like that. And on this inside, where you see the two come together, we'll take our trusty soldering iron, and then we'll just make these guys connect. So then it looks just like the stones come through. Let's see here. Just like that. There we go. There's our corner there. And we'll come around to the outside. And on this exposed edge, we'll just go ahead and follow this over here and connect it with those guys. Okay, so we have this in the corner. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and just proceed like this all the way down. So when it comes to your gaps or your seams right there, you just got to go ahead and make sure that it's nice and flush. And you got to remember, when we come back with this, what we're going to do is we're going to end up using that drywall joint compound over the top of everything. So if things aren't exactly perfect and you have gap, it's okay, because with that joint compound, you can come in there and fill any little imperfections that you don't like. So once you have it like that, what I'll do is I'll do the same thing that I did with this corner over here. I'll leave this area untouched. I'll go ahead and complete both sides. In my upper, I'll do the same thing down on this far side. And then when I glue it back in, I can come in, touch this, and make it look like it just keeps on flowing on through. And then I'll just follow this down and we'll bring it right down there to the end. So when we come back, we'll have our block wall in place all the way down. Okay, so we got our rock wall. Next thing you need to do is go ahead and get like a wire brush or maybe real rough piece of, like here's some 36 grit sandpaper. And what we want to do is rough this up and just kind of give it some texture on the edge. So you just hit this like so. And what this will do is just kind of give it a real rough look. So when we put our joint compound on it, it'll just make it look more like rock. So when it comes up on the top, we want to chip it away. This will round those edges. So we'll just go right on through here and rough this all up on both sides, vacuum it all out, and when we come back, we'll start applying joint compound. Next stage at this point, gotta move Bob, is joint compound. So what we're going to do, if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that we'll start covering the stuff with joint compound. So this is just regular drywall joint compound, and what I do is just go ahead and brush it on in just like this. And what this will effectively give us a look of, it give a fills in between everything, and it makes it look like mortar for one thing. So look at this, get this spread down here. And what you'll want to do is just kind of work it down into the cracks. You don't want it to be too full, because then it'll take away from the texture of our bricks. So just work it down in, just like that. And there we go. So we need to go ahead and do that to all the bricks, and then with the rock wall, same thing. Just grab your joint compound and start working it down in. And this will fill in all the little cracks down at the edges. And it'll fill in between those rocks and finish it all off. So you might want to use not only a large brush to initially get it in there, clear this a little bit more, set that, but a smaller one, more of a detail, where you can get down in these corners and just kind of work it. And work this a little bit more. And there we are. Okay, now we have our joint compounds all down and it's all dry. And I've allowed it to dry overnight. And the reason for that is in certain areas, especially down in the cracks and whatnot, down inside, it has a tendency to kind of pool up. And we want to make sure that's nice and dry before we start our painting process. The first part of the painting process is going to be using acrylics full strength. But the later part, we're going to be using the acrylics with the wash process, which uses a lot of water. And if this is still on the wet side, it's going to interfere with it. So we're going to go ahead and start with the stone wall first. And the reason why I'm going to start with the stone wall first is because it sits higher. And when you're doing your paint process, kind of my rule of thumb is I like to start at the highest point and work my way down. That way I don't have to fight it. If I started down here at the bottom and then I went ahead and started my stone wall, I would be fighting my overspray and drips and everything else that go down. So just to make it a little bit easier, little hint is to start high and work your way low. So we'll go ahead and let's start on this stone wall. Now, the first process is we're going to use 3 different colors of acrylic to start out with. And all I'm going to do is, like if we see down at the side here, I just went ahead and just here and there put some yellow. And then I'm just using a straw yellow, which is like a pale, you know, kind of an, I don't know, straw yellow. So start out with just going and periodically putting in different colors. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a green, which is, this is kind of like a pale green. And then this brown, which is kind of a mocha, kind of a light brown. And kind of stay with just regular monotone earth tones. Nothing real bright or anything else. Just stuff that's just kind of a washed out color, because not very often do you see stones where they have real brilliant color. So what we want to do is just go ahead and hit this here and there. So I'll finish up this wall right here with yellow, and then I'll just keep on doing my process. When we come back, we'll recap everything. But kind of give you an idea. So I have this straw yellow, and what I like to do is just work out of the cap instead of trying to work out of the container. Cap's a lot easier just to keep in your hand. So with a small brush, just load it lightly and just pick a stone here and there. So we have one here. We're just going to go ahead and hit that. Just kind of do it, you know, here and there. You don't have to get 100% coverage on it. In fact, if you don't, here, let's go ahead and do this stone right here. And what I mean by that is we're just going to hit it. And I'm going to hit kind of the outsides of it and just drag a little bit. And I left some of the white as far as the joint compound coming through. And what's going to happen is when we do our wash process, this will go ahead and get a darker as far as that gray on there, and the outer will be washed out. So it's kind of a cool effect. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish up my yellow, and then I'll come back with my brown and my green, and then we'll pick it up after that. Now we have all of the colors done. So you can kind of see how I just did them sporadically here and there throughout. There's really no rhythm to it or sequence, and that's kind of the way you want to keep it. You don't want it to actually look like there's a pattern. You just want it just here and there. So we got all that. Now I just need to let this dry, and then I'll come back with the wet process. Okay, now since it's all dry, we need to go ahead and start the wash process as far as with the gray, and then we're going to come back with a black. But to start with the gray, what I've done is I've watered this down so it's really diluted out. And this is a gray that I just went ahead and made with a few different colors. You know, there's really no science behind the gray. It's just what you would like to do. So what I've got here is just a real thinned out, diluted gray. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and work this in, and you'll see that those colors that we put down will start to come through. You can see it right in here. It's nothing it really pops. It's just kind of a gradual transition of color, but it's enough that it kind of just breaks it up. You know, it just gives it a little extra realism to it. So what I'll do is I'll just keep on working this down, get that all done, and we come back, we'll start heating with our black. Okay, so we've got our gray on there now, and if you look down in here, you can see where those other colors just kind of pop through. They're real subtle, but it's enough to just kind of mix it up a little bit. So what I've done now is I have a black wash, and this is just black paint that has been extremely reduced out, so it's real thin. And what we want to do with this is I'm just dabbing it right on the top and just letting it go down, and as it goes down you can see it kind of work its way down through the stonework, just kind of help it along. So just kind of do it here and there, and what this will do is give it a real weathered look, and it gives a little bit more depth to your rocks. So you see that go on down through there. We'll do a little bit more. We'll stop. Okay, so you can see how it's just kind of seeping down through it. Now, you can also tell why I start up high and not down low, because if we had painted this below, I mean, look at all the overspray as far as the seepage that we have from paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and keep on doing my wash process. When we come back, we'll start attacking our red brick. Okay, so we got all our black wash on our brick wall, and while we let that go ahead and dry, we're going to go ahead and go into the red brick. So there is one more step with the wall, and it's the white highlight, but we're going to do the wall and the brick at the same time when we do the highlights. So with the red brick, I use two colors to make my brick red, and it's just a straight bright red and burnt umber, and mix those two together, and I end up with, you know, a nice kind of a dirty burnt red. So, you know, you can go out and get brick red, but you know, we can make it too. So now I went ahead and this is mixed full strength, so it's not watered down or anything else. And I have myself kind of a light bristle brush, okay? And with this, we're gonna go ahead and just go on the outsides of it. We don't want to get down into the insides per se. We just want to stay on the outside. And if some gets down in there, it's okay. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and paint this all up red on the surfaces, and then once that dries, we'll come back with a black wash and wash the whole entire thing, and that'll work like the mortar in between. Plus, if it's up on top, if you look right in here, you can see where I haven't quite covered it all the way. That's okay, because when the black wash hits it, it'll go ahead and tint that area and give it kind of a worn look to it. So what I'll do is I'll keep on proceeding like this, and do this a little bit more, get an idea. And Just pretty much just hitting the surfaces of stuff. Okay. So just keep on going around like that. I'll work it all the way down. When we come back, we'll go ahead and do our black wash. Okay, so now we have the red all the way down on our brick. If you look at it, you can see that some of these I have full coverage on and some I have partial coverage on. And that's on purpose for the mere fact of when we come over with the black wash, it'll go ahead and, well, you'll see it. It gives a really cool effect. So again, this is the same black wash that I used on our stone. I'm gonna go ahead and use it on this. And you wanna make sure that this is good and dry. You don't need to have it wet or anything else, because it'll then smear and you'll get like a pink, and you don't need the pink in where your grout or the mortar is in your bricks. So just go ahead and take that, put it right on down, and just kind of work it in, and just give it a wash. And this is going to dry kind of uneven and be a little blotchy, which just adds to it. So get this little area here, and we'll stop and get an idea of how it looks. A little bit more. And there it is. Now if we come down to the far side, I went ahead and started down in here. And you can see how it dries, and it really gives it that worn look. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish up my brick with the wash. When we come back, we'll start addressing the areas we haven't touched yet. Okay, so we went ahead and I have all the black wash on the brick. It's still drying a little bit, but you get an idea. I mean, you can see how it kind of gives a blotchiness and whatnot. And it really, I mean, it looks really cool. So what I like to do is take a little bit of our brick red that we have, and on some of these bricks, just go ahead and touch them up. Just every once in a while, just hit one. And that just kind of breaks up some of the monotony. You might have like an area in here where we have a bunch of bricks that have partial color on them. Just pick like one or two of them and paint them out. That breaks up that area a little bit, and it just adds that much more realism to your project. So now that we've got this, I'm going to come back and we'll start addressing the dirt. Okay, it's time for some dirt. So what I've done is I went ahead and mixed up some burnt umber and some straw yellow, and it gives me a nice kind of earthy dirt tone. So with this, I go ahead and I reduce it down, so then it too turns into a wash as well. So more or less what we're gonna do is just go ahead and apply it on. Now there's some areas here that I have done previously, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna recoat all those areas with this wash. And the nice thing about it is it will dry down and give us more of a little bit lighter tone. So that's how pretty much how you do your dirt. Now when it comes to around your brickwork, you don't want to use the big brush. Just go ahead and get yourself a little bit finer brush and just edge it on through. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and take care of all of our dirt, and when we come back, we'll be ready for some grass. Okay, so now we have the dirt all down, and while that's drying, what we'll do is go ahead and highlight our stone wall. So I just take regular white acrylic paint and put it on a board, and then I go ahead and load my brush, and it's kind of a stiff bristle brush that you want to use. And all we're going to want to do is just give this thing a light kiss and give it some highlights. And what this will do is just make that stonework pop. It just gives it a little bit more depth, a little bit more definition on stuff. And just go like that. So I'll go ahead and take care of the rest of the stone, and when we come back, we'll see if our dirt's dry yet. Okay, so our dirt is all dry now. So now we just need to go ahead and put some grass on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and use some Mod Podge glue to go ahead and set that down. And then, being that we have this retaining wall, I'm gonna work myself from my wall outward to the track. So the reason why I'm doing that is kind of like the old adage, you don't want to paint yourself into a corner. Well, I don't want to grass myself into a corner, meaning if I do it the other way, the effect won't be the same, because I want to go ahead and use tall grass up here around the wall and work my way down into small, shorter grass. So what I'll start out with is go ahead and lane my Mod Podge around the areas that I want to have my taller grass at. And I will just use a regular brush here, and what I'm going to do is just go ahead and lay this glue right on down. And this is the matte finish Mod Podge, so it won't have any type of gloss to it or anything else. And we got our Mod Podge down, and I loaded this with 7mm Woodland Scenics static grass. So what I'm going to do is just concentrate on this back wall and get that established, and then we'll start working out from there. Again, I just want to caution you about these static grass applicators. They can give you quite a wallop, so if you've never used one before, just be a little cautious with that. And let's get this laid down there. All right, so I'll keep on going this way, get that laid down, we'll get this vacuumed up, and put down our second row. Okay, so now I have that longer grass up around the edge. Now I'm going to come in with some dark green static flock that I'm going to go ahead and put in my applicator. And what we're going to do is just do a little bit of blending with this. And what this does is just give us a little bit of blotchiness in the base. So we're not really per se making this for grass, but as much as an underlayment into the grass, so that when we put the other stuff on, it just gives a little bit more depth. So now we have that. Now I can come back and we can finish off that area. That down. Now I went ahead and loaded up some medium green 4mm static grass, and that's also by Woodland Scenics. And this will just be that last little bit that we need. So we'll get this on there. It should look pretty good. So yeah, we're starting to get a real good grass base going on there. I'll go ahead and finish that area up, and we'll come back to see what it looks like. Okay, so went ahead and got this area in. Now we're coming over into an area where I have established grass, all right? And not only that, I used to have a crash fence that was right here that I took out to do this. It's gonna go back in later. We'll have a video on that. And it had the areas where the mounts were at, and it caused holes. So I went ahead and patched those all in. Now, being that we have established grass and we have other stuff coming in, I have a blend. And that's what this is. This is a blend of a bunch of different grasses that when I do my static grass and I vacuum it all up, at the very end of it, when I go back through and do my final vacuum, you're gonna have different lengths and everything else that you're gonna vacuum up. And I put it in its own little container. Now, this type of grass, it works really good for doing blending because it has a bunch of different heights to it and everything else. And it's kind of like blending paint out. It will just kind of, you know, tricks the eye per se. So what I'm gonna do is I went ahead and loaded that up into my static grass applicator, and I'm gonna go ahead and use that all the way down through here, and that's the blend. And that has all sorts of different styles, and it's got from 3mm all the way up to 7mm into it. And what this will do is just cause a whole different effect. So there we go. So I'll just go ahead and use that and just bring it on down through. Okay, so we went ahead and we got all our static grass in. We used the blend that I came up with for this area and then all the way down through. And the nice thing about that, it has all those different lengths in it. And when you're going into established scenery, it just kind of tricks the eye. You don't see that transition. It just, you know, it blends it out. So that works out good. Got this all done. Stone walls all done. Pavers all done. Minions, they help greatly today. And there we go. So we come back, we'll just close it all up. All right, so another video complete. And this area we're gonna keep on working on and adding to it. So some of the previous videos that we've done have been just like this one section, and then we've never come back to it. Well, those areas have changed quite a bit on the track. And so what I want to do is complete this with a series of videos. So we're going to do additional stuff as far as with the pavers. I want to do some more aging on them, chip them away, show some grass and some weeds popping through. The stone wall, we're going to go ahead and age it even more. I want to work on some bushes in this area, trees in this area, different flowers, a new type of crash fence, and a new style of guardrail system. So it's kind of like when we built this AGIP sign, and I told you that I hadn't had a place yet for it. Well, this was the area it's going to go. So kind of give you an idea, I mean, this guy's going to sit right down in there. I can't set it down right now because everything's still a little bit wet, but that is going to be its final resting place. So if you like the video, like it, share it with others, and subscribe to my channel. And if you look at the top of the banner on the YouTube channel, you'll see a little thing that says Facebook. If you click on that, it'll take you to a group that I've set up just for this channel. And it's not just for me to share stuff, but it's for you guys too. So if you guys have a layout, or if you have anything that's slot car related and you want to go ahead and post it, I'm okay with it. That's what it's there for. So till next time on Boone Slot Car Garage, well, we'll be working back over here. All right? See you guys later.